There are things in this world, secrets buried in stone, whispered through time, etched in forgotten tongues, that were never meant to be found. Not because they were lost, but because they were hidden. Hidden deliberately, sealed beneath earth and silence, guarded by centuries. These are not the lost pages of history. They are the pages history chose to bury. Echoes of civilizations that vanished without reason. Technologies that shouldn't exist. Relics that don't belong anywhere in our timeline. Tonight, we're not just telling stories. We're prying open the past, lifting veils, unsealing tombs, and following the faint trails of mystery that lead into the forbidden corners of ancient memory. But be warned, these aren't bedtime tales. These are truths humanity may have never been meant to rediscover. So as the night settles and the world grows quiet, ask yourself, what else lies beneath our feet waiting for time to forget it again? Now let's begin. Somewhere beneath layers of earth and centuries of silence lies the missing tomb of one of history's greatest conquerors. A man whose name shaped empires and whose shadow still lingers over the world, Alexander the Great. His armies stretched from Greece to India. His legend outlived him, yet for all the monuments and stories left behind, his final resting place, his tomb, has vanished. Not misplaced, erased. When Alexander died in 323 BCE in Babylon, the world trembled. He was only 32 years old. His death, whether by illness, poison, or fate, left his vast empire without a successor. His body, embalmed in honey and encased in gold, was meant to return to his homeland of Macedonia. But the journey home was interrupted. His general, Ptolemy, seized the funeral procession and diverted it to Egypt. He knew that whoever possessed Alexander's body would possess his legacy. In Memphis and later Alexandria, the tomb became a sacred site. For centuries, kings, emperors, and conquerors came to pay homage. Julius Caesar, Augustus, even Caligula. They stood before Alexander's sarcophagus, carved from translucent crystal, surrounded by treasures that glowed in the lamplight of eternity. But then the record goes silent. By the 4th century AD, the tomb disappears from history. Earthquakes ravaged Alexandria. Tsunamis struck its coast. Christianity swept through the empire, rewriting the world's memory. The resting place of the god-king was swallowed by time. Since then, more than 100 expeditions have searched for it. Some claim it lies buried beneath Alexandria's modern streets. Others believe it rests near Siwa Oasis, or still somewhere in Babylon. But no one has found it. It's as though history itself guards the secret. Because if the tomb of Alexander were uncovered, it could change everything. His DNA, his treasures, perhaps even records of his lost campaigns. But there are those who say it should never be found. That disturbing the tomb would awaken a curse bound in silence since the dawn of empire. So the dust of a king still sleeps, untouched by time. Beneath the plains of central Turkey, another mystery lies hidden in darkness, a vast underground city called Derinkuyu. Discovered by accident in 1963, when a man renovating his house broke through a wall, it revealed an opening that led not to a cellar, but to a labyrinth. A city beneath the earth, descending more than 18 stories deep, capable of housing 20,000 people. Inside were living quarters, stables, wine cellars, schools, chapels, even ventilation shafts cut with surgical precision. Heavy stone doors could seal entire corridors from within, protecting those inside from the world above. Whoever built it didn't carve a cave. They engineered a fortress, but the question remains, who and why? Some say the Hittites or Phrygians, ancient Anatolian peoples. Others believe it predates them entirely, perhaps built by survivors of a forgotten catastrophe, maybe even before recorded history began. The volcanic rock of Cappadocia is soft and workable, but dangerously unstable. One miscalculation could have collapsed the tunnels. Yet Derinkuyu still stands, its corridors perfectly preserved through earthquakes and centuries. Why would a civilization choose to live underground? To hide from invaders? From the climate? Or from something far worse? Legends speak of serpentine beings, creatures from the depths, that once drove humankind below the surface. Myths, perhaps, But myths are often born from memory. Across Cappadocia, more than 200 similar underground cities have been found, all connected by tunnels running for miles, forming a subterranean network that defies explanation. Was it a refuge, a sanctuary, or the remnant of a civilization that knew something the rest of the world forgot? Today, parts of Derinkuyu are open to tourists, but the deepest levels remain sealed. Some say it's for safety. Others whisper of chambers too strange, too dangerous to reveal. And still, the city breathes beneath the earth, silent, dark and waiting. Thousands of miles away, in the jungles of Ecuador, another mystery hides beneath the roots of the rainforest. The Cueva de los Tallos, or the Cave of the Oil Birds, has been called one of the most mysterious places on Earth. Hidden within the territory of the Shuar people, it's a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers descending deep into the rock, some natural, others appearing unnaturally smooth, as if shaped by tools or something far more advanced. In the 1970s, an explorer named Juan Morich claimed he had found within its depths an artificial library, metal books inscribed with strange symbols, lined on shelves in vast underground halls. Golden artifacts, statues, tools, evidence, he said, of a pre-flood civilization, or even something not of this earth. His claims gained global attention, especially after being mentioned in Erich von Däniken's Chariots of the Gods. And in 1976, an expedition was launched, led partly by the British military and joined by none other than Neil Armstrong. Officially, it was a scientific venture. Unofficially, many believed Armstrong had come to verify what Moritz had found. When the team emerged, they reported nothing unusual, no metal library, no alien relics. But skeptics found it strange that such a large and expensive operation yielded so little. Some believe the truth was quietly buried, sealed again in the dark. Access to the cave is now tightly restricted, guarded by both the Shuar and the Ecuadorian government. Whether by secrecy or preservation, the result is the same. The truth remains underground. If the legends are real, if there truly is a library of metal plates preserving lost knowledge, then it lies waiting in the shadows, its words unread for thousands of years. And what if those words weren't meant for us at all? Beneath the Baltic Sea, 300 feet below the icy waves, another enigma rests in silence, the Baltic Sea anomaly. In 2011, a Swedish diving team scanning for shipwrecks stumbled upon a sonar image that defied explanation. A massive, circular object, nearly 200 feet wide, rising from the seabed like a buried craft. It appeared to sit atop a raised platform, and divers who descended to inspect it reported smooth, flat surfaces, right angles, even steps carved into its side. What startled them most wasn't just its shape, but the interference. As they approached, their equipment failed. Cameras froze, compasses spun. When they retreated, everything worked again. Was it a natural formation, glacial debris, or something else entirely? Some said it looked mechanical, even artificial, like a sunken craft or the remnant of an ancient structure built before the Ice Age. Others whispered that it was an artifact from another world, a vessel that fell long before humanity learned to walk upright. Scientists dismissed the idea as geology, but the anomaly's symmetry and electromagnetic field remain unexplained. The ocean, as always, keeps its secrets well. And finally, from the depths of the sea to the deserts of Judea, another mystery written not in stone, but in metal. In 1952, among the caves of Qumran, archaeologists uncovered something that should not have existed, a scroll made entirely of copper. And like the parchment scrolls of scripture found nearby, this one spoke not of prophets or visions, but of treasure. It listed 63 hiding places containing gold, silver, and sacred artifacts, specifying exact weights, depths, and directions. If true, the fortune would be worth billions, yet none of it has ever been found. Some believe it was written by priests fleeing the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, hiding the wealth of the Second Temple. Others think it was meant as a riddle, a symbolic map to spiritual treasures. But one line stands apart, a final entry describing a duplicate of this document and its explanation, hidden elsewhere. A second scroll. The key to the code. It has never been found. Was the copper scroll truly a map or a warning? Some believe it was never about gold at all, but about relics of unimaginable power, hidden for humanity's own protection. Perhaps its purpose was not to be discovered, but to test those who sought it, to reveal what people would do when faced with the promise of divine treasure. The desert still holds its breath. The scroll's riddle remains unsolved, and maybe that's how it's meant to be, because not all mysteries are waiting to be uncovered. Some were meant to stay buried, sealed by those who came before us, whispering across time the same warning: some knowledge must remain in the dark. There are secrets buried in stone, etched in forgotten languages, sealed beneath layers of time that were never meant to be unearthed. Not because they were lost, but because they were hidden deliberately, buried beneath centuries of dust and silence. Whispers from the past that raise questions no one can fully answer. Echoes of civilizations that vanished without explanation, of technologies that shouldn't have existed, and of relics that defy the limits of known history. These are not simple tales of the past. They are the warnings of time itself. Deep in the ancient city of Abydos, beside the Nile, stands the Temple of Seti the Firm, a masterpiece of architecture and myth, a sanctuary of gods and the resting place of secrets that defy comprehension. For centuries, its walls have spoken in hieroglyphs, telling stories of life, death, and divinity. But among these sacred carvings, one image stands apart, something so jarring it bends the very boundaries of time. High above the temple floor, etched into the stone, are shapes that look unmistakably modern. A helicopter, a submarine, a jet, and a tank. Machines of war, thousands of years before their invention. When photographs of these carvings emerged in the 1990s, they sent shockwaves through both archaeology and the public imagination. The official explanation was that the images were a result of overlapping inscriptions, ancient texts carved during Seti's reign, later re-chiseled by his son Ramses II, with the plaster between them eroding over time. The overlapping glyphs, scholars said, simply formed shapes that happened to resemble modern machines. But coincidence has limits. The outlines are too precise. The helicopter has a body, a cockpit, a rotor, and a tail. The submarine has a hull and tower. Even the tank appears structured and deliberate. How could random erosion create forms that mirror 20th century engineering? Some believe the carvings are remnants of lost ancient knowledge, a glimpse of technology from a forgotten civilization whose advancements have been erased by time. Others take it further, suggesting that these shapes record encounters with something not of this world, craft witnessed by the ancient Egyptians, descending from the heavens like the very gods they worshipped. Their myths, after all, are filled with celestial boats and sky chariots. Perhaps what they carved was not imagination, but memory. Another theory holds that the Temple of Seti I was more than a shrine. It was a spiritual gateway, a place where pharaohs communed with the divine, where visions and prophecy were part of ritual. The carvings, then, may not depict literal machines, but visions, images of the future seen by priests or seers, glimpses of wars and technologies that would not exist for millennia. Ancient prophecy etched in stone. There are even whispers of time distortion, of temples that served as resonant chambers capable of echoing events across ages. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. When you stand beneath those carvings, staring up at machines that shouldn't exist, you feel time itself bend around you, thousands of miles away. Another enigma hides beneath the soil of Zhejiang Province, China. In 1992, a farmer draining a pond discovered a staircase leading into darkness. Beneath the surface lay a vast chamber of stone, smooth, symmetrical, and impossibly old. As more ponds were drained, more chambers appeared. 24 in total. each one enormous, perfectly carved into solid sandstone, with sweeping ceilings, polished walls, and pillars aligned in geometric precision. No debris, no tools, no inscriptions, no sign of who built them or why. These are the Longyu Caves, structures so vast that their creation would have required the removal of over 1 million cubic meters of rock. Yet not a single record exists in Chinese history to explain them. The walls bear strange parallel markings, as though carved by enormous blades, or perhaps engraved intentionally as part of a code. Every cave follows the same pattern, the same design, suggesting a single purpose, or a single intelligence behind their creation. Engineers who study the caves can't explain how ancient builders achieved such perfection without modern equipment. The ceilings remain stable after thousands of years, surviving floods and earthquakes. Some suggest they were granaries or shelters. Others believe they were temples or tombs. But their silence, no carvings, no symbols, feels purposeful, as though they were built to be hidden. Some even whisper that they were constructed as vaults against a catastrophe, or as messages left for a future civilization. The caves hum with mystery. Step inside, and you feel the echo of something immense, something waiting to be understood. In the cradle of civilization, among the ruins of Mesopotamia, another artifact rewrites the boundaries of human history, the Sumerian king list. Inscribed on ancient clay tablets, it recounts the reigns of rulers who governed for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of years. After kingship descended from heaven, the tablet reads, kingship was in Eridu. The first king ruled for 28,800 years. His successor 36,000. 8 kings ruled for a combined 241,200 years before the flood swept over. After that, the reigns suddenly shrink to mortal scales. What if this wasn't myth? What if the list preserves a record of a forgotten epoch, an age before the flood, before history, when beings of extraordinary longevity ruled the earth? The story aligns eerily with other ancient accounts. The long-lived patriarchs of Genesis, the golden ages of Hindu texts, the god-kings of Egypt. Could these records be distorted memories of a civilization erased by cataclysm? The Sumerians claimed their kingship came from heaven. Perhaps the phrase wasn't metaphorical. Perhaps it was literal. Scholars argue over symbolism and mistranslation, claiming exaggeration or numeric error. But the king list was copied again and again for centuries, preserved even when its claims defied belief. Why? Because it mattered. Perhaps it was more than history. It was a map of cycles marking the rise and fall of worlds. It suggests a truth that civilization is not linear, but cyclical. That humanity has been reborn many times, always rising, always forgetting. Across the ocean, in the quiet valleys and forests of North America, another mystery lies buried beneath mounds of earth. Thousands of ancient burial mounds, some shaped like serpents or concentric circles, dot the landscape from Ohio to Wisconsin. For centuries, settlers and archaeologists uncovered skeletal remains within them, but these were not ordinary skeletons. Reports from the 1800s and early 1900s described bones of enormous size. Men 8, 9, even 10 feet tall, with massive skulls and double rows of teeth. Newspapers of the time, from the New York Times to local gazettes, printed these discoveries. Even Smithsonian field reports mentioned oversized remains found in mound excavations. Yet today, none of those skeletons can be found. The Smithsonian denies their existence. Some claim a deliberate cover-up, a quiet effort to erase evidence that contradicts the accepted story of human evolution. Others believe the bones were misidentified, or simply lost to time. But the pattern persists, hundreds of accounts scattered across decades, describing beings too large to fit into the framework of modern history. Native legends tell of a race of giants, powerful and fierce, who once roamed the land before being wiped out. The Paiutes of Nevada spoke of red-haired giants driven into caves and burned alive. Excavations at Lovelock Cave in the early 1900s revealed giant tools, sandals, and human remains with reddish hair. Scientists dismissed it, but the echoes of these tales remain. Could these giants have been remnants of a forgotten branch of humanity, or something else entirely? Descendants of the mighty men of old, described in ancient texts? Whether by accident or intention, the traces of their existence seem to have vanished. No bones in museums, no photographs, only yellowed pages and whispers. Yet across continents, from Sumer to Peru, from the Bible's Nephilim to the Adena mounds, the story repeats, giants walking the earth, building monuments and disappearing beneath the soil. Perhaps these mysteries are not isolated. Perhaps they are fragments of the same story, a story that stretches back before recorded history, before even myth. From hieroglyphs that depict impossible machines, to caves carved with precision beyond comprehension, to lists of kings who ruled for millennia, to bones that don't fit the human mold, all of them hint at the same unsettling truth, that we are not the first. That civilization rises and falls like the tide, leaving only faint traces for the next to find, and maybe that's why these secrets were buried. Not to be discovered, but to be remembered only as whispers. Because once uncovered, they remind us that the world we know may only be the latest chapter in a much older story, one that began long before we were here, and one that may, one day, begin again. In the vast deserts of the American Southwest, the wind moves like a whisper from another age, sweeping across red mesas and sun-bleached canyons carved by time. Here the silence feels ancient, as though it remembers everything. Among the cliffs and ravines, traces of a vanished civilization cling to the rock, the ancestral Puebloans, once known as the Anasazi. Between 100 and 1300 CE, they built vast stone cities, intricate dwellings carved directly into the canyon walls, and kivas, circular subterranean chambers aligned with the stars. These people thrived for centuries in harmony with the land. Their society advanced in architecture, agriculture, and astronomy. And then, without warning, they disappeared. Their cliff dwellings, like those at Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon, stand empty, frozen mid-story. Pottery lies unbroken, tools undisturbed. The people simply vanished, leaving behind a riddle carved in stone. Archaeologists point to drought, famine, or conflict as possible causes, but none explain the total abandonment. It's as if the entire population walked away in silence, leaving no sign of where they went or why. Legends from neighboring tribes speak of something stranger. The Hopi tell of the ant people, beings who lived beneath the earth and guided humans through cycles of destruction and renewal. When the world above was burned or flooded, the ant people offered refuge in vast underground chambers. The Zuni and Navajo share similar stories of sky gods, of migrations led by beings who descended from the heavens and taught early humans how to survive. To some, these are symbolic stories of wisdom and resilience. To others, they are fragments of a forgotten truth, hints of contact between the ancestral Puebloans and something not entirely human. Chaco Canyon deepens the mystery. Its great houses, massive complexes of stone rising 5 stories high, were built with astronomical precision. Certain windows and walls align perfectly with solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles. Roads stretch for miles in straight lines across the desert, leading to nowhere, as if meant for travelers who could fly. The scale of construction required a level of coordination, labor, and knowledge far beyond what small farming communities should have possessed. Some archaeologists now suggest Chaco may have been a ceremonial hub, a center of knowledge that drew pilgrims from across the region. Others whisper of something more, an energy, a presence, something the ancient builders tapped into and later fled from. Petroglyphs etched into canyon walls depict spirals, serpents, and figures that look eerily like humanoid beings, wearing helmets or emitting light. One carving found in Utah's Sego Canyon shows tall figures with large, almond-shaped eyes, long limbs, and halos or headdresses that radiate outward like beams. They are thousands of years old, carved by hands that vanished long before modern civilization, yet their imagery feels strangely familiar. By the 1300s, the cliff dwellings were empty. The people scattered. The desert reclaimed their homes. But the stories endured. The Hopi say the ancestral Puebloans didn't vanish. They migrated to the Fourth World, guided once again by the Ant people, waiting for the day when the world would be remade. To this day, explorers and locals report strange lights in the skies over Chaco Canyon, hovering silently, darting across the horizon before vanishing behind the mesas. Some dismiss them as atmospheric anomalies or military tests. Others see echoes of the same phenomena their ancestors might have witnessed centuries ago, the same lights that inspired the carvings, the same presence that watched from above and then called them away. The ancestral Puebloans left no written record, only stone, silence, and symbols that refused to yield their meaning. Their disappearance remains one of the great enigmas of the ancient world. Were they victims of drought, of war? Or did they follow someone, into the earth or the stars? Stand beneath the cliffs of Mesa Verde at dusk, when the shadows lengthen and the air turns cold, and you can almost feel it, the hum of the past, the weight of unseen eyes. The dwellings seem alive in the fading light, as if still inhabited by those who stepped through some unseen doorway long ago. Maybe they didn't vanish at all. Maybe they simply moved beyond our understanding, leaving behind a message carved into stone and silence, a reminder that even the greatest civilizations are only visitors here, and that some stories were never meant to end, only to be rediscovered. In 1994, under the golden sun of southeastern Turkey, the earth gave up one of its oldest and most confounding secrets. Near the ancient city of Şanlıurfa, among the quiet hills, locals called Potbelly Hill, Göbekli Tepe, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt brushed the dust from a carved stone unlike anything he had ever seen. It was tall, shaped like a T, smooth, deliberate. As his team dug deeper, more of them appeared, rising from the soil like buried memories. Soon it became clear that this was no ordinary sight. What emerged from the ground would rewrite history itself. Göbekli Tepe is not a village nor a burial ground. It is a temple. Massive circular enclosures of stone pillars, some standing over 16 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons, carved with exquisite images of animals, lions, foxes, vultures, scorpions, and serpents. Each pillar seems alive, pulsing with the presence of a story we no longer understand. And yet, this temple was built not by farmers or city dwellers, but by hunter-gatherers, people long believed incapable of such monumental architecture. Radiocarbon dating placed the site at over 11,000 years old, thousands of years before the pyramids, before Stonehenge, even before the invention of writing or pottery. It was, quite literally, the first temple on Earth. The stones are arranged in perfect circles, some small, others vast. At their centers stand two towering pillars, always taller than the rest, facing each other like sentinels. Carved into their surfaces are reliefs of animals, abstract symbols, and human-like forms. Some pillars even depict arms and hands folded across their bodies, suggesting that these were not mere monoliths, but stylized depictions of beings, guardians, gods, or ancestors. Yet the deeper the site is studied, the stranger it becomes. Göbekli Tepe shouldn't exist. By conventional timelines, humans of that era were nomads. They hunted, gathered, moved with the seasons. They did not build temples. They did not organize massive workforces. They did not carve stones weighing tens of tons and arrange them with mathematical precision. And yet someone did. This means the story of civilization did not begin with agriculture, as once believed. It began with faith, with ritual, with the human desire to reach beyond the mortal world. Some archaeologists suggest that Göbekli Tepe was a sanctuary, a place where scattered tribes gathered seasonally to perform rituals, to celebrate life and death, to mark the cycles of the stars. Others believe it was more than a temple. It was a school of the sacred, a birthplace of myth itself. The carvings are not random. Vultures appear frequently, possibly symbolizing death or the soul's ascent. Serpents slither around the bases of pillars, symbols of renewal or rebirth. Foxes, known for cunning and agility, might represent the spirit world's messengers. But there are mysteries that resist even the most rational explanations. The entire site was deliberately buried around 8000 BCE. The people who built it, who spent centuries carving and arranging the stones, one day covered it all in layers of earth and debris, preserving it perfectly for millennia. Why would they do this? Was it to protect it from something? To conceal it from those who came after? Or was it part of a sacred cycle, a ritual burial of the temple itself? Göbekli Tepe also seems to align with celestial patterns. Some researchers have proposed that its layout mirrors constellations as they appeared 11,000 years ago, particularly the star Sirius, the brightest in the night sky and one that has held sacred significance in many ancient cultures. The temple may have functioned as both an astronomical observatory and a gateway between the earthly and the divine. Others have noted the eerie similarity between Göbekli Tepe's twin central pillars and the twin gods motif found in later mythologies from Mesopotamia to Egypt. Could this be where such symbols began? Alternative theories go further still. Some suggest Göbekli Tepe was not the product of isolated hunter-gatherers at all, but a remnant of an earlier, forgotten civilization, a society wiped out by the cataclysms that ended the last ice age. Perhaps survivors of that lost world passed down their knowledge to later generations, inspiring the leap from chaos to culture. This memory of the gods theory echoes myths from every corner of the world. Sumerian tales of beings who descended from the heavens, Egyptian stories of Thoth and Osiris teaching order to humanity, Mesoamerican legends of Quetzalcoatl bringing knowledge to the people. Could they all trace their roots back to this lonely hill in Turkey, to a temple built before history began? Mainstream archaeology cautions against such speculation, yet even within the accepted narrative, Göbekli Tepe forces a reckoning. It challenges the sequence of human progress, reversing the order we once thought inevitable. It suggests that spirituality, our search for meaning, came before farming, before cities, before civilization itself. In building a temple, humanity may have learned to live together, to plan, to stay. Faith, not food, may have birthed society. Today, the site stands under protective coverings, guarded by silence and wind. Tourists walk its pathways, gazing at the carved pillars that once towered above the ancients. Yet even as modern cameras capture its beauty, its purpose remains elusive. Every discovery seems to raise new questions. Who were the builders? What drove them? And why did they choose this hill? Some archaeologists believe there are still many more circles buried beneath the soil, perhaps dozens, waiting to be unearthed. As dusk falls over Göbekli Tepe, the stones catch the last golden light of the setting sun. Their shadows stretch long and thin, like fingers reaching across time. The air grows still, heavy with an ancient presence. And for a moment, you can almost feel them. The hands that carved these stones, the hearts that beat with a faith older than history. Perhaps the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not trying to honor gods as much as they were trying to become them. Perhaps they understood something we have long forgotten, that creation and worship are one and the same, that to shape the earth is to speak with eternity. And when their work was done, they buried it, leaving behind not ruins, but a message carved in stone and sealed in silence, that long before we wrote, or ruled or remembered we believed, no one thought much of it at first. Just another mound in the endless patchwork of ruins that cover the ancient Near East. But Klaus Schmidt saw something others had missed. What began as a casual survey on a quiet Turkish hill became one of the most extraordinary archaeological revelations in human history. A discovery so old and so advanced, it shattered everything we thought we knew about civilization's beginnings. Göbekli Tepe wasn't just ancient. It was impossible, 12,000 years old. That's 7 millennia before the pyramids rose on the Nile, 6.5 before Stonehenge, long before writing, bronze, or even the wheel. It stood at a time when humans were supposed to be nomadic hunters living in scattered tribes. And yet here, buried beneath a dusty Anatolian hill, was evidence of monumental architecture. Massive T-shaped stone pillars arranged in perfect circles, carved with haunting precision. Lions, boars, vultures, scorpions, snakes, and abstract figures stared out from the stone, their meaning lost, but their presence undeniable. This wasn't a village or a camp. It was a temple. Each pillar weighed up to 20 tons, set into sockets carved in solid bedrock, fitted so carefully that they've stood for 12,000 years. These stones weren't randomly placed. They formed sanctuaries, circles anchored by twin central pillars that seemed to represent deities or guardians. Every angle, every carving, every alignment had purpose. And then, at some unknown moment, the people who built it buried the entire complex. They filled it with dirt and rubble, entombing it deliberately as if to protect or erase it forever. The timeline doesn't make sense. According to everything we thought we knew, civilization began when humans settled down to farm around 10,000 years ago. Farming led to cities, cities to religion, and religion to temples. But Göbekli Tepe flips that order on its head. It suggests that faith came first, that people gathered not to sow crops, but to worship, that perhaps the very act of coming together to build a temple sparked the invention of agriculture itself. Imagine the first farmers not as pragmatists, but as pilgrims cultivating food to sustain their sacred gatherings. Even stranger, there is no evidence of a city near Göbekli Tepe, no houses, no workshops, no cemeteries. The people who built it did not live there. They arrived, worked, worshipped, and then moved on. And yet, the site remained active for more than 1,000 years, rebuilt and expanded over generations. It was as if entire tribes converged here from across the ancient world to take part in rituals that bound them together in ways we can barely imagine. Less than 10% of Göbekli Tepe has been uncovered. What has emerged already is astonishing. Pillars rising over 18 feet high, arranged in nested circles, each enclosure seemingly dedicated to different animals or symbols. The carvings themselves are unlike anything else from that era, delicate, deliberate, alive. One particularly haunting relief shows a vulture lifting a human head, a motif echoing later Neolithic sky burial traditions, where bodies were left for birds so the soul might ascend. Were these stones not just monuments, but portals between worlds, gateways to the heavens or the underworld? No one knows why it was buried. Some say it was sealed at the end of a ritual age, a symbolic closing of a sacred cycle. Others believe the builders feared something, an invading enemy, a coming disaster, or perhaps a truth too powerful to preserve. There's even a darker theory, that the builders weren't the creators at all, but later, peoples who discovered Göbekli Tepe already ancient, already mysterious, and buried it out of fear of what it represented. But the mystery doesn't end there. Researchers have begun to notice something else, patterns in the stones that suggest astronomical intent. Certain enclosures appear to align with the rising and setting of stars, particularly Sirius, the brightest in the sky. Some scholars propose that the temple was a vast observatory, its carvings encoding celestial events. On one pillar, known as the Vulture Stone, researchers believe they've found a sky map carved into the rock, depicting constellations as they appeared around 10,150 BCE. That date coincides with a period of global upheaval, the end of the last ice age and, possibly, a cataclysmic comet impact believed to have triggered massive floods and climatic collapse. Could Göbekli Tepe have been a memorial to that catastrophe, built by survivors of an earlier civilization? The idea isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. The sudden appearance of agriculture, domesticated animals, and symbolic art across the Near East around the same time suggests that knowledge may have been passed down, not discovered. Some researchers believe Göbekli Tepe is the echo of a lost world, a seed of civilization preserved by people who remembered more than we realize. The parallels are eerie. Plato's tale of Atlantis speaks of a great civilization destroyed around 11,600 BCE, the same era Göbekli Tepe first appeared. Could this be the smoking gun, the proof of an advanced culture erased by time and reborn in myth? Some, like author Graham Hancock, believe so. To them, Göbekli Tepe is a fingerprint of the gods, evidence that humanity's story is far older and far stranger than we've been taught. What we know for certain is that the builders of Göbekli Tepe achieved the impossible. Without metal, without wheels, without cities, they carved and erected stones of breathtaking precision, arranged in ways that mirrored the cosmos. And then, for reasons still unknown, they buried it all. The soil that covered the temple preserved it perfectly, as if time itself had conspired to keep it hidden until we were ready to find it again. Even now, most of the site remains sealed beneath the earth, untouched. Archaeologists estimate that dozens more circles may lie buried nearby, each with its own secrets. And Göbekli Tepe is not alone. Other sites, Karahan Tepe, Nevalichori, Sefer Tepe, are emerging from the same region, each echoing the same mysterious style and age. Together, they hint at a network of sacred centers, a civilization lost beneath the folds of history. When the sun sets over the Anatolian plateau and the shadows lengthen across the stones, the place feels alive, humming with memory. You can almost see them. Ancient figures moving between the pillars, torches flickering against carvings of foxes and vultures, chanting beneath a sky filled with unfamiliar stars. Then silence. The wind rises, carrying whispers of a time when humanity's first great question wasn't how to survive, but how to understand the gods. Perhaps Göbekli Tepe isn't just a ruin. Perhaps it's a message, one left for us by those who came before, warning that civilizations rise and fall like tides, that every age of light is followed by forgetting. Buried beneath its stones may lie not only the origins of religion, but the memory of a world reborn from catastrophe. And maybe, just maybe, as we uncover its secrets, we're not discovering something new at all. We're remembering something ancient, something that was never truly lost, only waiting. As researchers probed deeper into the workings of the Antikythera mechanism, they realized they weren't looking at a crude curiosity from the ancient world, but at a machine of stunning complexity. It wasn't just an astronomical model. It was a masterpiece of engineering and mathematical insight, designed with a precision that would not appear again for more than 1,000 years. Its lunar mechanism alone was extraordinary. The device didn't simply mark the moon's phases. It replicated the moon's irregular orbit, recognizing that it travels in an ellipse and moves faster and slower as it swings around the Earth. To capture this motion, the mechanism used a differential gear system, a concept modern engineers believed wasn't invented until the Renaissance. Yet here it was, in bronze, crafted over 2 millennia ago by minds who clearly understood the hidden mathematics of the cosmos. The back dials of the mechanism revealed even more brilliance. They displayed the Saros and Exeligmos cycles, periods used to predict eclipses with astonishing accuracy. Whoever built it understood not only the broad rhythms of the heavens, but their subtle irregularities, those small shifts and wobbles that take decades to observe. All of this intricate celestial motion was driven by a single hand crank. Turning that crank sent motion rippling through over 30 finely cut gears, some rotating clockwise, others counterclockwise, translating human touch into a dance of metal that mirrored the heavens. It was a mechanical universe, a cosmos in miniature, built by hands that somehow bridged art, science, and spirituality. The shipwreck that hid this device for 2,000 years was discovered off the coast of Antikythera, a small Greek island between Kythera and Crete. The vessel was enormous for its time, likely a Roman cargo ship carrying luxury goods from the eastern Mediterranean. Statues, glassware, fine ceramics, treasures destined for the elite of Rome. Among them was the mechanism, a device far beyond the understanding of the ordinary world. Who had commissioned it? Was it an educational tool for a scholar, an astrological calculator for a philosopher, or perhaps a navigational instrument for a powerful patron? Many believe it originated from Rhodes, home to the astronomer Hipparchus, whose theories about the moon's motion match the mechanism's design. Others point to Pergamon, Alexandria, or Athens, centers of learning that once pulsed with genius, now lost to time. Yet there is no mention of this machine in any surviving ancient record. No texts, no blueprints, no lineage of invention. The Antikythera mechanism appears and disappears like a spark in the dark, unmatched before or after. The silence surrounding it is perhaps its most haunting feature. How could such brilliance exist only to vanish completely? Did wars, fires, and the collapse of empires erase an entire tradition of mechanical science? Or was this machine the last remnant of something even older? A relic passed down from a civilization now forgotten, its meaning lost with its makers. The Antikythera mechanism forces us to confront a troubling idea, that human progress may not be a steady climb upward, but a fragile arc, capable of great leaps and devastating falls. For every golden age of discovery, there may have been others, long before, wiped away by time, flood, or fire. This single artifact, small enough to fit in a box, reminds us that history may not be linear. It may be cyclical. Knowledge can be born, perfected, and forgotten. Today, the fragments of the mechanism rest in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, encased in glass and lit by soft, reverent light. Its gears are still, its crank frozen, yet its presence hums with mystery. Each corroded tooth, each inscribed symbol, whispers a story of minds that once reached for the stars and found a way to bring them down to earth in metal and motion. When you stand before it, you feel the thin line between our age and theirs collapse. It is a reminder that brilliance is not new, that we have perhaps rediscovered less than we've lost. Elsewhere on the sands of Egypt, another enigma continues to challenge the boundaries of what we think we know. The Great Pyramid of Giza, rising out of the desert like a mountain carved by gods, remains the most studied structure on Earth, and yet it too is not finished revealing itself. Built more than 4,500 years ago under the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, the pyramid once gleamed in the sun, its casing of white limestone shining like a mirror to the heavens. It consists of over 2 million stone blocks, each perfectly placed to form a monument of breathtaking precision. Its alignment to true north is so accurate that modern instruments can barely improve upon it. For millennia, it stood as the ultimate symbol of human mastery over stone and time. But in 2017, that certainty cracked. Using advanced muon tomography, cosmic ray imaging that can see through solid rock, scientists detected a massive hidden chamber buried deep above the Grand Gallery. Nearly 100 feet long and perfectly sealed, this big void had never been seen, never accessed, and until that moment, never even suspected. Its discovery was nothing short of seismic. After centuries of exploration and mapping, the Great Pyramid still held a secret room, large enough to fit a passenger jet. Hidden in plain sight, Egyptologists offered cautious explanations, suggesting it might be a relieving chamber, an empty pocket designed to distribute the pyramid's immense weight. But the precision of its placement, its symmetry and its size suggest something far more deliberate. If it were simply a structural gap, why conceal it so completely? Why design it with the same architectural care as the rest of the pyramid? Others wonder whether this void could be a sealed vault, a chamber of knowledge or relics intentionally hidden by the pyramid's builders. The structure's proportions are steeped in mathematical symbolism. The ratio of its height to its perimeter encodes P. Its geometry reflects the golden ratio, and its celestial alignments match key stars such as Orion's belt and Sirius. Every measurement seems to hum with purpose. Could the hidden chamber play a role in this cosmic design? Some theorists have suggested that the Great Pyramid was never intended as a tomb at all. The absence of Khufu's mummy, funerary goods, or hieroglyphic inscriptions has long troubled archaeologists. Perhaps, they say, it was something far stranger, a machine of resonance, an instrument for transformation. Ancient texts speak of initiations, of journeys through darkness to reach light. Maybe the hidden void was not meant to hold a body, but to shape consciousness, a sealed space for rituals of rebirth. If so, its isolation makes sense. It was never meant to be entered by the living, only experienced through the spirit. More radical theories trace the pyramid's origins even further back, suggesting it predates dynastic Egypt entirely. According to this view, Khufu didn't build it, but inherited it, modifying a monument left behind by an older, possibly antediluvian civilization. The hidden chamber, then, might be their message, a sealed record of a forgotten epoch preserved in stone. Though such ideas remain speculative, they echo myths found across the ancient world, stories of floods, of civilizations destroyed and rebuilt, of wisdom hidden to await rediscovery. Since the discovery of the Big Void, further exploration has been limited. Officials cite the need to protect the structure, but whispers persist that more has been found than revealed. Perhaps scans uncovered additional anomalies, or perhaps the chamber's contents, whatever they may be, are deemed too disruptive to expose. Whether caution or secrecy, the result is the same. The void remains untouched. Its silence deep and deliberate. It is humbling to think that one of humanity's oldest monuments still guards its greatest mystery. For every laser scan, every satellite image, the pyramid continues to whisper the same truth as the Antikythera mechanism, that we are still standing at the threshold of forgotten knowledge. Each new discovery hints that the past was more advanced, more mysterious, and perhaps more connected than we dare admit. And then there is a final fragment of evidence, a piece of gazelle skin stored in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace. On it, drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis, is a world map unlike any other. It shows the coastlines of Africa and South America with uncanny accuracy, centuries before modern mapping. But what captures attention is what lies at the bottom of the parchment, a coastline that matches almost perfectly the northern edge of Antarctica. Without ice, Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1820, and its landmass beneath the ice wasn't mapped until the 20th century. Yet the Piri Reis map, compiled from sources the Admiral claimed were ancient, shows an ice-free Antarctic shore with correct proportions and topography. Analysts in the 1960s compared it to modern seismic surveys and found the resemblance too precise to dismiss. If true, it implies that the original source maps, perhaps inherited from vanished libraries or lost civilizations, were created over 6,000 years ago. Before Antarctica froze, Piri Reis himself said he drew his map using older charts, some from Greek, Arab, and possibly Alexandrian origins. He may have even possessed fragments of Columbus's lost maps. But if his sources truly predated known history, then the map is more than a curiosity. It's evidence of an older global knowledge network, one that knew the world's shape long before telescopes or compasses. Mainstream scholars dismiss this as coincidence, suggesting misidentified coastlines or artistic extrapolation. Yet the precision of the map's geometry argues otherwise. Its very existence, like the Antikythera mechanism and the Great Pyramid's hidden chamber, whispers that civilization's story is incomplete. Across continents and centuries, these relics form a pattern, fragments of knowledge too advanced, too deliberate, too impossible for their time. Perhaps they are echoes of an age before memory, when humanity reached a height it has since forgotten. Perhaps the earth itself keeps these secrets buried until we are ready to find them again, somewhere beneath sand, beneath sea, beneath centuries of silence. The past still waits, its machines stilled, its chambers sealed, its maps half burned but not destroyed. And every time we uncover one of these fragments, the world tilts just slightly, reminding us that the line between myth and history may be far thinner than we think. The Oera Linda book is one of history's strangest and most disputed manuscripts. It presents itself as a chronicle of a northern European civilization stretching back thousands of years, filled with accounts of floods, migrations, and matriarchal rulers who preserved secret wisdom through the ages. Its pages mix pagan cosmology with proto-Christian prophecies, moral codes, and apocalyptic warnings. Within its verses are mentions of flying machines, magnetic power, and celestial phenomena described in cryptic symbolic language. When it surfaced in the 19th century, scholars quickly dismissed it as a forgery, an elaborate invention of nationalist romantics or mystics seeking to rewrite prehistory. Yet others have continued to defend it, pointing to its linguistic coherence, its internal consistency across hundreds of pages, and its references to real geographic features that were later confirmed through archaeology. What makes it especially provocative is its alignment with flood legends, goddess-based mythologies, and recurring symbols seen across ancient European folklore.